So in the last video, I told you a little bit about the world of chess and how to learn the basic rules of the game. And in this video, we're going to be studying a recent chess.com game completed by none other than Magnus Carlsen, who is the #1 ranked player globally. In the last video, we talked a little bit about how the AI and tech revolution have actually really benefited the chess community because they allow you to study the greats, practice puzzles, and learn directly from grandmasters who might in a different generation have been inaccessible to the everyday person. So here you can see that Magnus Carlsen's ranking is 2897, well above the threshold for Grandmaster. It says his global rank is 2. I think that he lost a few of his Blitz games today, but the online ranking for chess.com, while a good estimate of the player's actual FIDE ranking, isn't necessarily comparable to a player's real life ranking. And when I say real life ranking, I mean ones that are ranked by the Chess Federation from real tournaments. So often the best players in the world, they might have like up to a 3,000 as their chess.com ranking, but in real life, they maybe have a 2,800, which is still absolutely insane. Here you can see that Magnus is in the 99th percentile, which means only 0.01 players are at his level. And you can also see the games that he has won, lost, and drawn on chess.com. Here's what I'm talking about with his recent losses. It appears that he was going back and forth doing blitz and bullet games with another grandmaster today, and you can see a few red minuses, meaning that he lost a few games. So while his ranking on chess.com dipped momentarily, I guarantee it'll be back tomorrow. So here is a recent rapid game that he played against this user who has a ELO score on chess.com of 3009. As you can see, Magnus's ELO score is 3336. But if you notice a difference in the score, that's not too important. I mean, here we can see his bullet ranking, just how much it fluctuates in a 7-day period, going up a few hundred points or down a few hundred points. What's important to note with these two competitors is just that they are at the grandmaster level. Okay, let's get into the game. Let's see what they do, and let's see what we can learn. Magnus Carlsen here is black, and his opponent is white, and I'm just going to refer black and white. So white, who makes the first move, opens, bringing their knight to f3. Black responds, bringing their pawn to d5. White responds, bringing their pawn to g3. Black retaliates with g6, bringing their pawn to g6. Now white is bringing the bishop out, protected by the knight, bringing that white bishop to g2. Black follows suit, bringing their black bishop out to g7. Now white brings their pawn out to c4. Black's pawn, in this case, is in jeopardy of being killed. It is not protected by another piece, but neither is white's, so black easily takes. White responds with immediately bringing their queen out, queen to a4, which is threatening the pawn, threatening the c4 pawn. So black responds with bringing their knight to c6. Doesn't put the queen in jeopardy, in fact, gives the white queen, another piece that it could kill, but knowing Magnus Carlsen, he has something up his sleeve. Queen takes the black pawn on c4. Black pawn comes out to e5, the black knight still in jeopardy on c6. White responds, bringing the white pawn out to d3. Black brings out the knight to e7. Now the opponent has castled. I imagine that Magnus will quickly do the same. Both have set up a nice castling system here. Yes, as I anticipated, Magnus has castled right after. So now we've got an interesting setup. Both sides have taken one pawn from their opponent. Both teams have castled. White brings out their knight to c3. Black brings out their knight to f5. White's bishop is coming in for the attack on the black queen, coming down to g5. Luckily, the queen has a lot of wiggle room on black. Black queen quickly moves to d7, making the white bishop's attempt at capture futile, as they now have 0 pieces in their diagonal crosshairs. So white has brought their knight to d5, which threatens one of the pawns. On black, it doesn't seem like it threatens anything else. This is an interesting decision, perhaps prompting an exchange of a queen for a queen. Black moves pawn to h6. Here I'll move my head because I'm in the way. That threatened the white bishop, which is now retreated all the way to d2. Black queen is encroaching upon white's knight, but not taking. Interesting, so it went to d6. But this has sent the white knight running all the way to c3. Black bishop is back in the game on e6. This is now threatening the white queen. White queen flees all the way to a4, and if taken, can be immediately consumed by the white knight. Black pawn to a5. So in the event that white queen blundered and took this black pawn, then black knight could take the white queen, but it is very unlikely that'll happen. White knight moves to c1. Black knight moves to d4. Now, what is in their crosshair? So black knight now can be captured by the white queen, can be captured by the white knight, but black knight, if though it was not taken by either of those pieces, could also capture white pawn on its next turn, or any of these other occupying spaces, perhaps setting up for a potential check. White knight moves to d4, and black knight moves to d4 and has taken the knight. White pawn now comes down to e3 and is threatening black knight. Black knight retreats down to c6. White knight develops to e4, putting the queen in jeopardy. The black queen. Black queen rushes to d3. Interesting, definitely giving the operational advantage as it can kill 3 different pieces and also easily move back into safe territory. White bishop goes to c3. It's protected by castle, so it is unlikely the queen will capture. Wow, okay, so now black queen is nose and nose with the white queen. Black queen on c4, white queen on a4. White queen moves up to a3 instead of capturing. No queen exchange happening today, it seems. Black knight moves to b4. White bishop moves to e5, staring toe-to-toe with black's bishop, which is on g7. Now, interestingly, the black bishop has moved up to c2, giving it an opportunity to either capture the queen or capture a rook, but also putting it in jeopardy from one of white's rooks. Now, in the event that it is captured by one of white's rooks, it can immediately be avenged by the black queen, but this is an interesting position here. White bishop retreats further into enemy territory, taking over g7 and putting black rook in jeopardy. Black knight advances to a3, leaving the black queen potentially up for capture, but to be immediately recaptured by the black knight. White rook does indeed capture on c4, but it'll likely be captured immediately back by the black knight. It is captured immediately back by the black knight. White bishop captures on f8 and is immediately recaptured by the black king. White pawn putting the black knight in jeopardy. Black knight advances forward on the board to e5. White knight advances to c5. Black developing their pawn to c6. Interesting. White knight down to b7. Black pawn moving up the board to a4. Captured by white pawn on a4. Captured by black rook on a4. White knight advancing on the board to c5. Black rook advancing further to a3. Now the white knight has put the black king in check, is immediately captured by black pawn on e6. White rook is now in play on c1. Black rook encroaching on enemy territory on a2. White bishop captures black pawn on c6. Instead of taking white bishop and sacrificing black knight, black instead moves to f2. White king immediately takes the black rook on f2. Black knight puts the white king in check. King retreats to f3. Black knight captures white rook on c1. This game is getting down to the wire. White bishop advances up the board to protect the king on e4. Black king advances to f7. I'm imagining this is going to end in a resignation because it's not looking good for either side. Or I should say it's not looking good for white, and I imagine that they will be defeated imminently. Black knight moves down to b3. White is advancing pawns on g and h4. Black challenging the white h4 pawn with a black pawn on g5. I only have 1 minute left in my recording, so let's see if I can finish this up. Okay, so it looks like white has captured the black pawn, but also leaving itself vulnerable from h6 black pawn. Instead of capturing, the black knight puts the white king in check. King is retreating, now in check again from the black pawn. King is retreating yet again to e5. Black king moves to e7. White bishop moves to d3. Black knight moves to f3, putting the king in check yet again. Also, look at the opponent's time clock. They only have 14 seconds, while Magnus Carlsen is sitting at a solid minute. All right, the king moves forward to e4, challenging the black knight, but the black knight retreats all the way to h4. King moves down to e5. Black knight puts him in check again. A repeat of the same pattern. Black knight now retreats up to e1. White bishop retreats as well. Black king on the move. I only have 10 seconds left in my recording, so I'm going to go a little bit quickly. Black's move, white's move, black's move, white's move. I'm about to run out of time. Game ends in